Let's talk Terry Crews. You tuned in to For Those in the Cheap Seats. Let's get into it. I was reading about the Terry Crews situation, and I listened to his interview on Roland Martin 2 days ago. And Terry Crews is one of those people. He's not an interesting guy by no stretch of the imagination, nor will I pretend that I actually give a damn about his opinion. But what I will do is examine where these type of people come from and what's his end game. Terry Crews is one of those people I like to call a pun. Now, if you're tuning in to For Those in the Cheap Seats, what we call a pun, or what I call a pun, stands for pseudo-intellectual Negroes. These are the type of people that espouse all types of philosophies, theories, with no tangible evidence or proof that these points of view have any weight or actually can improve the dialogue or conversations that are going on in today's discussions in what we like to call the blackosphere. Terry Crews said that we have to be careful of black supremacy. Now, a lot of people, like myself, I'm trying to figure out exactly what is black supremacy, because we first need to look at what supremacy is, right? I mean, because we have a lot of people that throw out words, especially in today's discussions or discords, with not actually understanding what these terms mean. So what I like to do is I like to actually look into what terms mean, what's behind the words, put them into contextual understanding. You know, words like supremacy or supreme. Now, we can actually look up supremacy quite easy and get an actual working definition of what supremacy is. So let's take a look at the definition of supremacy, and I'm going to look it up here on my tablet. Let's see. Okay. All right. Supremacy, the state or condition of being superior to all others in authority, power, or status. So now that we have the actual working definition of supremacy, we can delve into what the hell Terry Crews was talking about. So I think a lot of people have a working idea of what white supremacy is, but we don't have any idea what black supremacy is. And the reason we don't have an idea of what black supremacy is because it doesn't exist. To say that we have to be careful of something that does not exist is stupidity on the highest level. Now, in that interview, Terry Crews said he was speaking of hypotheticals or what ifs in the far out future if black people actually got justice and equality, that if we didn't bring allies, or I should say more to the point, white allies along with us during the struggle, that it will create a condition in the psyche of blacks to facilitate over whites black supremacy. The first question I like to ask is the first logical question. If we get equality and justice from white oppressors, Now, remember, we have to fight legally for this equality. How then can we turn around and create a system of black supremacy when you have to have a system to facilitate, enforce, and punish those who may buck against your so-called supremacy? So my question to Terry Crews is, in this hypothetical situation that you're so afraid of happening, how do we get there? And don't give me this nonsense about, if we close out whites or other blacks who we deem not notable enough to help bring us along in our fight for justice and equality, how do we facilitate the supremacy? Terry Crews, how? White people just gonna lay down and let us walk all over them because white people are so good at doing that? Are they gonna give us a systematic system to facilitate this supremacy? They're gonna let us go for hundreds of years and build institutions that lock them out of opportunities of fairness and equality? They're gonna let us enslave them and make them, chattel servants or slaves? I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to institute this so-called black supremacy. And that's where the fallacy lies in Terry Crews' statement. Terry Crews is a selfish man who's only saying these things for self-interest. Terry Crews has gotten rich and fat off the Hollywood liberal elites, mostly white, and he doesn't want anything to jeopardize that because he's having a good time. He's making money. He's at a higher social status, and he doesn't want anything to jeopardize that. So Terry Crews is only saying these things because he's actually looking out for Terry Crews. Terry Crews doesn't give a damn about the black community because Terry Crews is in a position now where he doesn't have to care. He doesn't have to. And when people get comfortable and fat off systems that oppress people that look like them, but when you get to a certain point where they say, okay, you're one of the good ones, then you're less likely to look behind you and see what's going on in the community that you come from and how these very same people policies affect those who don't have your position of comfortability. One thing we have to do is we have to stop listening to, first of all, actors, entertainers, athletes, anybody in media, because they have their own agendas. And black people, we got to stop doing this. We're the only community that allows people who are not, of the highest echelons of learning and knowledge to speak for us. Terry Crews doesn't speak for us. Terry Crews shouldn't even have a voice. And he says, there are some black people who are gatekeepers. Absolutely. We're gatekeepers of our culture, just like everyone else is. You're not going to go to Italians and tell them that they have to be inclusive to everyone, that they have to tear down their own identity, their culture, and their history. They're going to laugh you out of Little Italy, and as well as they should. They're the gatekeepers of their culture, and they should be. Black people or foundational black Americans should be gatekeepers of their own culture. We shouldn't have to kowtow to anyone telling us we can't be this way, we can't be that way. It's nonsense. Why should we be the only community where others dictate what's acceptable in our community? You can't go to Chinatown and tell them what's acceptable in their culture and in their community. You can't go to any other community outside of the black community where you'll hear this nonsense where you cannot have gatekeepers of your culture or identity. Sit down, Terry Crews. Sit down. We have got to stop allowing these idiots to speak for us. Terry Crews, you don't speak for me, and you don't speak for a lot of black people that I know. You speak for yourself. You're a selfish man who married a biracial, and you're afraid that Black people are now the gatekeepers of their own identity, and we're pushing out mulattoes or biracials and saying that they're not us. I don't have anything against mulattoes or biracial. Hell, my grandmother was one. But they're not traditional blacks. And we have the right to say that. So again, all this goes back to Terry Crews being a selfish man. He's worried about losing his power and influence and his comfortability, and he's worried about his wife not being accepted. It's tough. Grow up. You live in a real world where people get to judge and decide if you belong to their collective group. If you don't like it, tough titty. Go somewhere and sit down. Sit down. Let me say this one more time for those in the cheap seats. We get to decide who we allow to propagate in our circles and in our community and absorb our culture. End of story. Terry Crews, sit down. Go somewhere and eat cheese and sip wine with your Hollywood elites and mind your business. Put button on your lip before it get buttoned up for you. That's all I got to say on this Terry Crews nonsense. I'll catch you later on the next one.